This Photoshop tutorial is our last project for the unit, and it is on using layers, a little more about layers, and also color adjustment or colorizing. Let me begin by, if you have your handout, look at that. We need to open the Maryland.psd, which should be the link on the resources. We will go to Image, Canvas Size, and you'll notice that we're going to make it twice as wide, and we're going to make it twice as deep. And those dimensions are on your sheet. And we'll say OK to that. Now once we've done this, we're going to take the Move tool and let's move the image of Marilyn Monroe to the upper portion, upper left, excuse me, and then we'll click and drag this layer to the Create New Layer. And we'll do this 3 times in total so that we have 4 layers. And then, depending on the layer that you're on, you will move the images to different areas of the screen. And they should snap into place so that you have 4 copies. Now you will work independently on each layer, and if it helps, you can turn them off visually, but I usually prefer to leave them all on so I can determine which one. However, you may want to lock the layers so that you won't be manipulating but one layer at a time. Here we're going to do something called kind of give it a colorized effect. We'll do posterizing, and we'll go under Image, Adjustments, Posterize, and notice we have different layers. I'm not sure if I gave you the value. You can play around with the number of layers, or levels, excuse me, to see what you like. 8's not bad, 7's nice. This gives it more of a kind of a psychedelic look. You can also, we'll talk about using the color hue saturation in the next one, but you can, on this one, let me just show you that now. Go to Adjustments again, Image Adjustments, Hue Saturation, and just pick, say, the red. Of course, that would be her lips, the background, some highlight or lowlights in the hair. You can desaturate. See how it makes it look more like a sepia or washed out photo. You can turn it to its starting point, which is 0. We can change the hue. So obviously there's a lot of red in this image. So just to show you what you can do with this one. Alright, let's click Cancel, but we're going to keep the posterization. Now I'm going to lock this layer. Excuse me. Lock the layer. And then unlock the second layer. And that will be this one in the lower right corner. On this one, I think I want to do an artistic effect. And again, these can be done in any number of ways. Let's go to Filter Gallery. And let's see, texturize. Let's do brush strokes, ink outlines. Now, notice how the dark intensity is very strong. Stroke length, we can change. Light intensity, bring that back. We can do a fresco, make the brush size very small, make the brush detail much greater, change the texture. We can also do something called the texturizer, and you can add a canvas or sandstone, brick pattern, and you can change how deep. You can change the light source. Notice how we have the light coming from the top left, from the bottom right. It looks virtually the same, except the highlights are now on this side of the brick rather than this side. And actually, I'm going to do, let's see, do colored pencil. Nope. Let's do watercolor. Let's see what watercolor looks like. Let's do this. There. Now that's kind of a nice effect. Bringing the shadows down. So it still looks like the photograph, but yet it's got more of a broken appearance as if it's smaller brush strokes. I'll also go back to the adjustments, hue saturation, and I think I'm going to take the red and change the hue more toward the violet. Then also, let's grab the magentas, and I'm seeing a slight change. You may not see it on your screen, but it's actually bumping some of the colors down a little bit. Now for the yellow, let's go this direction. There, I kind of like that. Now you can say OK to this and then go back to the same screen. Because you've changed the hue, it's now a different color selector. So it's now the magenta tone. And then we can kind of desaturate that a little bit. So I like that. So once you're happy with that layer, lock it, then go to the next one and unlock it. This is the lower right. This one, I did, I believe, same thing as the brightness contrast, or I mean it looks a lot like the posterizing, but I'll change the brightness and I'll increase the contrast, play around with that so that it's more just the darks and lights. Then I'm going to go back to the posterizing and make it just a few levels there. And then hue saturation, let's make the reds go violet, or kind of a blue. Let's make the yellows kind of a green, so it looks more Warholian. And then the cyans, we've got some cyan in there that's changing slightly. And then let's see, go to the magentas. You can also use your magic wand to select areas and then say select similar. Now go back to your adjustments, hue saturation. We can click colorize. If you wanted those tones to be more of the blue, to try and match more of the background. And then darken it. So, okay. And if you would like, you can go to the view right here, do the hide extras. You still have the selection, but you don't have the marquee, that flashing line. Then you can go back and undo that so that you can see it. We'll select, deselect. That was actually an extraneous step. You didn't have to do it that way. But I was showing you how to show or hide the marquee. Now let's go to hue saturation, and we're going to go back to, let's do reds again. Colorize. Excuse me. Let me click off that. I wanted the reds, I'm sorry. And let's adjust them there. And we get more of kind of the lime and the blue. I think my example was more of the violet and the chartreuse. And then, of course, the upper one is actually the easiest, and I believe it was the second one that I listed, where it was under hue saturation colorize. So let's unlock it. That would be a good thing to do. Let's lock that one back. Okay, now we're on the upper right, and we'll go to hue saturation, colorize, and I think it's more of a bluish tone. We can saturate it. There. Just make sure whatever you do to yours, they're very obviously different. And what we'll do is, instead of saving this over its name, that way you can go back and try it over and over again, let's go to File, Save As. We'll save as a separate PDF. Or, excuse me, Photoshop. We'll call it Maryland 2 or something, or with your name. And just save it as a Photoshop. That's not in your instructions, I don't believe. So you will need to save it as a Photoshop, even though it doesn't say that. Then we'll also save as a JPEG. And you can call it, put your name in there. You can put your name into that, then save it. And you'll email this file, and make sure that it's 100%, or excuse me, 12 is the maximum, so that's 100% quality. Do the 12 value, and baseline is fine. And then you are ready to send that. And there should be enough space on the upload section of the resources. However, if there is not enough space to upload your JPEG, just email it to me at puckett.mc.edu. Later in the week, I will be posting the unit project and the final project for the entire class. And it won't be very difficult. It'll be something from each of the 3 programs. So you may want to start looking at some of your old work from InDesign and Illustrator to reacquaint yourself with those programs. Again, it won't be very difficult, but it will be something you'll need to refresh your memory on before the final project. And you certainly can go back and look at your notes, no problem. And have a good week.